Welcome to the Growth Whisperers Podcast, where everything we talk about is building an enduring, great company. I'm here with Kevin Lawrence with my colleague Brad Giles, and we're here to dig in today to an interesting topic we hope you'll find valuable. Brad, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really, really well. I have just come back from an island, having a few days off, an island off the coast of our city here called Rottnest. And yeah, nice summer holiday with the family, doing very, very well today. How are you doing?
I'm good, yeah. I just got back from India, seeing one of my long-term clients, a great company called Ashana Housing in India. The three brothers that run it, we worked together probably more than a decade, and got to see some awesome progress, and plus spent some time in India, and I just love that country. So it was good. It's always good to be home, but it was wonderful. It was my first international trip. I've done some stuff to the US, but first time, yeah, crossing the big pond as it is, and it felt kind of cool. It was great to get out and about.
There's a bit of a feeling like that in the world, isn't there? Things are just starting to happen a little bit, which is really nice.
It is. So what's your word of the day?
I guess word or phrase is just live. Just live. So in Australia, one of our greats passed, I guess, a week or two ago. His name was Shane. Oh my God, I've forgotten his name. And he was one of the greatest cricketers of all time. And he passed away at 52 of a heart attack. He was kind of like the Wayne Gretzky or the Tom Brady. He was that level. Like he was certainly the greatest spin bowler in cricket of all time, and I think he had the highest number of wickets ever taken for certainly a long
I have no
time.
idea what that means, but it sounds impressive.
Shane Warne. Yeah. So yeah, he's 52, went on a boys' trip to Thailand with his friends, just like you went to India. And he had a massive heart attack in his villa. He was just going to have a rest before they went out for drinks that night.
Wow.
And so, yeah, I guess it's just, it's kind of been front page news for days and days here. And it really just says, you know what, through all of this, you just got to live and you got to enjoy your life, because it won't be here forever.
Yeah, that's great. I think like that a lot. Interesting. I've got, some great travel and quality time this month, just, with my daughter and others, just to, high quality, live your life. You can't, and with COVID, it's affected a lot of people. They haven't lived their life as much. It's been harder.
Yeah.
So yeah, live your life in the way that it suits you.
And what's yours?
That's awesome. Yeah, mine. It's all about the freaking people. That's it. Like today I work with one of my clients in the US. We're on Zoom, so I'm not down there. And like, it's mind blowing. When I first worked with them, I felt like I was going to a frat party. Like literally, and to the point of one of our first meetings was in a guy's like beach house. And there was like, 4 guys to a room sleeping on, $100 mattress, cheap little mattresses on the floor. But then we get dressed up and put our suits on for a meeting. And I love this company, but they have got just under 90% of their key seats filled with A players. I think 70% of the whole organization, and they're getting close to 1,000 employees. It's just a machine. It's incredible. And, they've done a lot of hiring, so some of their A player percentages drop, but they're just killing it. And a company called Medics down in the US. They're a staffing company. It's just an incredibly well-run company, incredible culture-oriented company. And yeah, but it's all about the people. They've stacked the deck with awesome talent continually and put a strong filter on any human that joins them. And they're doing incredibly, incredibly well. And as I'm other calls this week, one with a CEO in another country, replacing a key executive. Another one I was talking to today, replacing 2 key executives, getting those right executives and the right people. It just makes all the difference in the world. So it's all about the freaking people.
It's all about the people, and you have to live.
Gotta live. And having the right people allows you to live, because then they do the work and you don't have to be involved in everything.
Yeah. It's
awesome. Well, let's get into our show for today. What are we talking about?
Today, we're talking about what to do when you're failing to achieve your quarterly goals. So once in a while, we'll come across a situation where a team might get 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks into the quarter, and they're just looking at a sea of red. They're just, no one is getting stuff done, and everyone's disheartened, and they're beginning to think about the next quarterly offsite day, the next day when they're going to rebuild their plan, and they're thinking, this is going to be a disaster. Nothing is getting done as we hoped for. So we're going to talk about, what do you do when you find yourself in that situation?
And one thing I want to add is there's another version of that situation, Brad, where everyone's all happy, smiley people and everything's all green. Like they're saying, oh yeah, on track. But the CEO gets a sneaking suspicion they're full of crap. And I've been to meetings where I look at the action tracker on the key company goals, and it's green 12 weeks in a row. And then it turns red on week 13 when we're having our meeting, because people are just, vanity reporting along the way. So if you've got your scenario was a very honest, transparent group that admits they're failing. The other is the ones that don't admit they're failing, and both are problematic. And in the second scenario, obviously the CEO or someone has to get a sense this isn't right.
Yeah,
so no
you've got to
matter
have a
what,
sense. You've got to have a sense.
No matter what, you're in a scenario where you're like, hey, this ain't working. We're not going to get across the finish line like we'd hoped. So that's what we're going to dig into today. And it's interesting, Brad, I've been thinking about this. It's the reason why companies that we work with, like, this company in the US, Medics, I've worked with them for close to a decade, in and about that, every single quarter.
Yeah.
Why? Because having a facilitator there creates an environment of accountability, creates natural improvement. We talk about how are we going to do better next quarter. These guys are killing it, doing amazing. And we're talking about how are we going to do better next time. So having a facilitator run those meetings is a key driver to ensuring things get done, because then the meeting doesn't get canceled or bumped. And it's an external party helping to create the environment of accountability as well. So that's a whole separate point. But that's why our clients have us do stuff for decades in some cases, because they outsource making this stuff happen. Yeah.
And so some great points. We'll make notes. Maybe we need to talk about those things soon. But it is the situation where for 13 weeks, an external facilitator won't be there. So yes, we may well create that accountability at a quarterly offsite, but it's the 13 weeks in between where stuff gets done. Yeah. And sometimes
by the time we show up, it's too late.
Yeah. And sometimes as a leader, you find yourself thinking, what do we do? This has gone off the rails too far. And I've still got 5 weeks left of this, or whatever it might be. And what am I going to do about it? So I guess something in this situation has gone seriously wrong, and this should be rare. This should not be something that you're talking about doing once, twice, 3 times a year. This is kind of once in every 3 to 5 years, I would throw out there, vulnerably. To see
you have a bad quarter, something. Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be doing it 2 or 3 times.
If it's happening chronically, you're probably the issue. It's a management issue if it's a chronic issue. Whether it's you're not doing your job as the leader of the team, or there's some other fundamental issue if it's happening regularly. Because people, and that's why we have these tools to help people to be able to focus on what they need to focus on, the highest priority things, and they generally get them done most of the time.
Yeah.
They have the ability to, but they need a little bit of help. So what we're going to talk about today is making sure that the help is there, that the tools And systems are there to enable you to achieve what you want to most of the time. And, in our world, we talk about being an A student. We don't need to be perfect. I'm far from perfect. But I kind of like, even when I talk to my kids, being an A student is the target. It's just excellence. Doesn't need to be 100%, depending on where you're at. Some places an A starts at 90 or 85. My son told me it now starts at 80%. I don't know, that seems a bit soft. But whatever it is that you're very good, right? And there's always some tolerance for stuff to happen. We're not talking about very good. We're talking about failure, which is 49% and less.
And yeah, so to summarize that, if we find ourselves in the situation on a regular basis, let's say once every year or two, where we're having to reset like this, there's a bigger structural issue. But if not, that's what we're talking about today. When you need to reset, the train's gone off the rails, for an analogy, we need to get it back on, and we need to make the most of the remaining time in the quarter. If you're 11 weeks in and you've got 2 weeks to go, it's too late, right? But if you've got a month or more, 4, 5, 6 weeks, this is where the opportunity lies to reset, like an accountability reset, to be able to start again. So how does this happen in the first place? What's the kind of the root cause? How do we get into this situation?
And we got a bunch of thoughts here for you to consider, but there could be a lot of things. But some of the things is the goals aren't clear enough or sharp enough, or the acronym SMART: specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound.
As a quick side, I heard there's 51 different acronyms for SMART.
I looked it up. Yes, at one point it was crazy. So basically, they're not crisp, clear goals. And a lot of times we get a goal like, improve customer service. Okay, what does that mean? In my companies that are run very, very well, it's improve customer NPS score from 55 to 65, right? As an example. Like it's and whatever measure you use of customer, or it could be complaints, or it could be other things, just specific. So basically, the goals aren't crisp and tight and outcome oriented. Sometimes there's not a single point of accountability. It's not one person's goal, it's a whole team. And then you have people looking at each other when it doesn't happen. It kind of be like if you're playing, European football, or what we call soccer. It's like everybody's the goalie.
Yeah.
And that doesn't work. The leader isn't doing their job. As we talked earlier, it's like the leader's on vacation, or the leader's who knows where, but they're not doing one of their core functions, is to keep people focused on the main thing.
Because leaders get distracted by shiny things.
All kinds of stuff. Yes. And they get distracted by this or that, and it could be a personal thing or a new project, but they get distracted from driving the core business, which is done through the company's goals. The big one is that they are not reviewing progress on the goals and next steps every single week at their weekly meeting. If they're not even having weekly meetings. But that is the major catalyst. And, we'll talk about that more a little bit later. Shiny penny syndrome, we already talked about that. Oh, there's something cool over there. Oh, we could set up a business in Africa. Oh, we could get into log scraping and building log homes when you're a,
software company or something.
Exactly. So distraction usually by the CEO or execs. And then finally, you just don't have a culture of accountability, which often means you don't have a team full of A players. But even the culture, there's not a culture, or just the mindset that achieving this stuff is non-negotiable. So all kinds of different things. And, if you guys could speak back, you probably share 4, 5, 7 other things that you've seen that have caused people not to achieve their goals. But that's a starting point.
And maybe they just got busy. We had a big customer project. We got distracted because we were working in the business and not on the business. That's kind of one of the ones that I hear quite often is, like we just got busy. Sure. It was so busy.
Or there was a critical situation that came up and sidetracked a whole bunch of energy.
Yeah. So this is how we end up in this situation. It should happen very rarely. So what do we do about it? Let's go through these 6 things that we're kind of advocating. So first of all, we've got to reprioritize based on the time that's left in the quarter. So what we're saying, let's say it's, I don't know, week 6 or week 7, there's about 6 weeks to go. So it's like you've got to have a mini quarterly. You've got to say, let's stop the presses. Everything is up for grabs. And then have the meeting and say, so what's the single most important thing that we've got to do? Everything stops.
And even before that, it's like, whoa, we're failing. What's going on? Even a conversation about it. Like, I don't know what's going on, and try and do your own little root cause. And then, it's like, create some urgency about it. Like, hey team, it's not okay for us to not achieve these goals.
Yeah.
And maybe you're taking, and as the leader, I'm feeling bad. So something's not working. We got to do a reset.
That's transparent, which I think is really important. It's got to be, we failed. Now we need to rebuild.
Yes. Awesome.
And so we've got to understand. So now it's we'll call it a 6-week quarter, perhaps. So what is achievable within a 6-week quarter has got to be one of those questions, but it's coming back to, let's say that we had 5 priorities for the company, 5 priorities for each of the departments, and 5 priorities for the individuals. You're not going to get that done necessarily in 6 weeks. So it's going to have to be a curtailed version.
And it might, like, some people might feel a sense of accountability and pride and find a way, but we're giving them the opportunities to change the plan and reset. Because you don't know, there's a small chance the goals might stay the same, and the team says, no bloody way are we going to let this slip.
But you've got to have that tough chat. You've got to have that tough conversation.
You do, and it needs to be a serious re-lock down on the goals.
Yeah.
So the second one is to, whatever you recommit to, is make sure the goals are super smart. And again, and particularly the realistic part, which you've covered off in the point before, Brad, but very specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. And it's very important that, and we even use a grid sometimes. Some teams are horrible at this. It's hard for whatever reason for people to set smart goals. We have a thing where it's just a grid with the goal and then SMART, and you just got to be able to check and see, does it actually meet the criteria on each? Because everyone knows SMART, just a lot of people don't use it. But incredibly crystal clear goals. Another phrase I use sometimes is outcome orientation. What is the outcome you're going to achieve?
Yeah. How will we know when we've crossed the finish line?
You got it.
Yeah. And it doesn't matter how many times we say you've got to set smart goals. There is always people, it's human nature for people to say, yeah, but I know what I've got to do there. But the physicality of writing it out in a smart way is what makes the difference. It really does. So number 3, ensure the right data is being looked at every week or day or hour. So in order to execute these priorities for the quarter, the reset priorities, the ones that we've built at this kind of midway point, do we have the right data to know that we're progressing in the right direction? Now, we said it could be hourly or daily or weekly. It doesn't matter, but we've got to make sure that we're using data in the right way, because when we don't have smart goals, it can't incorporate data necessarily.
Yes.
And we want to be updating that data to our peers.
Yeah. So it's not just a feeling of progress. You can see and measure and track the progress.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. And then number 4, we touched on this before, but this is a critical driver outside of, the SMART and the data, is the weekly meeting is happening. And there's at least 10 minutes in that meeting where you talk about, where's your progress? And then what's next? Brad does last 7, next 7. It's the same principle. What did you do? What are you going to get done next within a week time frame? But for each goal, so if you've got 5 company goals, going through all 5 of them, and you should do it in a minute or 2, and there might be a quick question or something, but within 10 minutes, it's an accountability and it's a reminder. We had one this week in our internal meeting, our team meeting, and one of the people on my team is I go, hey, so how'd you do on the last 7? They're like, oh, I got nothing done. And then I go and what's your next steps? And he's like, okay, this week I'm going to get caught up. And he made a list of the things he's going to get done this week.
But it's really important to pick up. This is not micromanaging, okay? Because we're asking questions of the person who is accountable. Micromanagement is looking over the person's shoulder, telling them what to do, ensuring at every turn. What we're doing is saying, we have 1 point per week where I'm going to say to you, what have you done? And are you confident that you're going to achieve that goal?
Yes.
And
myself as the leader of the team, my goal is, I got 1 or 2 of the goals are mine. And I'm going through. And this week I had to say, and there's a risk we might not achieve this one goal because for an external reason, we're having some challenges getting something across the line, but I'm declaring it. And setting that tone as a leader is pretty clear. Now, if you have, individual department or goals for each of your team members in addition, I often recommend you look at them once a month. That can be part of a one-on-one you have with your team. Or it could be done as a team once a month where we review them all. Generally at that level, that's not being reviewed with the whole team every week in my world. I don't know about you, Brad, but.
Yeah, it just depends. We've spoken about the weekly meeting on a few occasions. I kind of, my answer to that would be like that. Both of those, we have different examples of best practice. You've got to figure out how to make best practice work best in your team. And yeah, some teams just have a different flavor, and some countries have a different flavor as well. So
for sure,
it just kind of depends.
But minimum is you need to review the top 3 to 5 company goals every week with some rigor.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Moving on to number 5. If people are stuck or not making enough progress, meet and work with them to find a solution. Some people get overwhelmed. Some people have got a lot on their plate, perhaps too much to work on the business. And remember that priorities or goals are more often than not working on the business rather than in the business. Yep. Okay, so some people, they can just get stuck and hung up there. But as a business, we still need to execute our strategy. We still need to execute our priorities. So sometimes we need to double down on them. And like, perhaps that means building, a weekly plan or building some kind of checklist that they will work through to execute that.
Yeah. No matter what, they just probably need some help.
Yeah.
And, and what it sounds like in the meeting is, okay, hey, Mr. or Miss so-and-so, we wouldn't say Mr. or Miss, it'd be more casual, I'm sure, but hey, let's chat about this offline. It seems like how about you and I meet after the meeting for a little bit, right? And it's showing importance and accountability to the rest of the team, and it's also showing your support. But I'm a big fan, like let's call it out. Hey, let's talk about this. See if I can help you. And if anyone else has some ideas for them, please let them know. Mm-hmm. Great. And then
go, Kev.
I say number 6, if it's a super critical goal, you can up the ante and make it a topic at the daily meeting or start a daily meeting for it. Like if it's really important, discuss it more frequently. And, we know in critical times and war times, people often have more frequent, like daily meetings to move things along. And, if your company has one already, great. You could insert it into there and saying, hey, we're going to touch on this critical goal every day for the next month to make sure it gets done. We're going to talk about progress and next steps and then any stucks. That's a way just to give it the extra attention and making sure people are dedicating enough energy to it.
Yeah. And there's another concept called the critical number. It could be that you're setting a critical number for the next 6 weeks or whatever it is. And then you're just talking about that, or you're talking about the progress through that time. Where are we stuck? What's happening? And it's just using the time that you've got available to reinforce the importance of getting this stuff done. And, you know, really, if you don't have a quarterly reset, if you don't reset in this manner, you're going to get to the end of the quarter and you're going to feel even worse than you do today at this midpoint, you know, theoretically. And then
I
we've
put
got
a bonus one in.
One
Go
more
ahead,
bonus
Brad.
there, Kev. You go.
What?
We've got
No,
one
I
more
just, as you were
bonus.
thinking, yeah, I thought about the bonus one just as we were talking, and that's like it's the half-day workshop. It's like if we need to get some work done on a particular critical goal, you know, book a half day, book a day. Say, look, we're all gonna go at 2:00 on Thursday afternoon. We're gonna do it. We'll get dinner and we'll do a 4 or 5 hour session and get this done with the team that needs to get to do it. At the end of the day, if you don't allocate more energy and resources, it's not likely to move more, right? And that's other things I've seen companies do.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so what to do when you're failing to achieve your quarterly goals. So let's go for the review. Sometimes we get into a situation where we need to reset. We're not achieving the goals. It's becoming a bit of an elephant in the room and we need to reset. As a leader, you've got to have the ability to call that out. If you're calling it out too often, maybe it's time to look in the mirror. Maybe it's coming from you, right? But if not, you've got to reset and you've got to call it in a transparent way. So what do you do? How does that work? Okay, so first of all, reprioritize based on the time left. Figure out the time that is there, and then make sure that your priorities are going to be the most important things within that time frame. Number two, ensure that the goals are super smart. Make sure that we're considering, as I just alluded to, the realistic part. Like, we've got to set a plan that the team will believe in. It can't be, come on, let's just rally the troops and do all the things that we said we were going to do and make no changes or not trim any of it away. Number three, ensure that the data is being looked at every week or day or hour as appropriate so that we can execute effectively and people can realign around that data. Kevin, do you want to take us through 4 through 7, please?
Absolutely. So number 4 is that weekly meeting, making sure it's happening and that you're reviewing each of the company goals. What was the progress we made over the last week? What's our next steps to create that environment of accountability? And you can do it in under 10 minutes. If people are stuck or not making enough progress and you can see it, offer or suggest that you have a meeting with them afterwards to go and dig in. Suggest that they could ask colleagues for ideas or assistance if needed, but basically go spend some time with them, give them a hand. I'm sure they want to get it done, but they might need some help. If it's a super critical goal, you might up the ante and put it into part of your daily meeting or start a daily meeting on it. Again, talk where we make progress, what's next, and is there anything stuck or in our way? And then finally, you could also do a half day or a full day workshop just to get people out of their daily task mode to dig into this and make a lot of progress in a short period of time.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. So that hopefully will give you a bit of a deeper insight into what happens when your train goes off the rails and how do you get it back on those rails and get back executing and executing on your plan moreover, so you can continue to scale. Good chat, Kevin, as always. So this has been the Growth Whisperers podcast. My name is Brad Giles and my colleague's name is Kevin Lawrence. You can find me at evolutionpartners.com.au. You can find Kevin at lawrenceandco.com. And you can find both of us at YouTube by simply searching the Growth Whisperers. Thanks again. It's been great to chat to you today. I hope that you enjoy your week. Take care.
Have a good one.